Tape survey is the most useful recording technique, partially because of its low startup costs, but also because of its ease of use. Tapes come in a variety of sizes, but a 20-metre tape and a 50-metre tape are about the most useful sizes to think about, but it doesn't harm to have a small 3-metre steel tape as well with you for smaller measurements. The tapes can either be closed reel or open reel, and the open reel ones are much easier to clean if they get muddy. It goes without saying that using a damaged tape is a bad idea. Most other tape surveying errors are down to human error, and these include misreading the tape or writing down the wrong measurement. Make sure you know where 0 is on your tape. It's not always at the end. Make sure that your tape is straight and not deflected by a stone or a tree. One of the errors that you get with tape survey is people not measuring true horizontal distances, and this is important for our map to be accurate, because after all we're portraying the view of the ground as taken from straight above. I'm just going to give you a quick demonstration here to show how much of a difference that can make. So if I take the tape here and measure down the slope, I come up with a measurement of 1.36 meters. Up here with the tape held level, I've got 1.28 meters. Now, if you imagine you're dealing on if you're working on a larger scale piece of landscape, that error is going to be so much bigger. So today we're recording a small enclosure in a woodland, and the enclosure is surrounded by a dry stone wall, which then joins into another boundary that runs up the hillside. Within this enclosure there are a number of fire pits which are very clearly modern. And what I've done initially is I've set out a baseline right across the width of the site, and then I'm going to start taking measurements from this baseline of the boundary wall. With tape survey there are a couple of different ways you can approach the actual recording. You can either do a sketch drawing of the site and mark on your measurements, or you can do what I'm going to do today, is you can actually draw it in the field as you go along. And I find this is a much better way to work. It's much easier to spot problems and you can fix them, correct them on site, rather than trying to understand your notes at a later date. So what I've done is I've drawn on a board here that's covered in permatrace, I've drawn the baseline in. I'm now going to measure the direction of the baseline using a compass to find out where north is. So I'm lining up the compass with the tape and then turning the bezel on the compass until north is right in the centre. So I've got my board set up and I've got my baseline marked on, I've marked the direction of north, I've marked my scale, which is 1 to 100. I've got a scale ruler with me, a pencil and a set of drawing compasses, and that's really all the equipment I need to do this. We're now going to measure the detail from the baseline to the wall. Now there's a couple of different ways we can do this, and I'll run through those quite quickly. Firstly, there's a technique called swinging the tape. So one end of the tape is at the inside edge of the wall, the other edge is with me, and by moving this backwards and forwards I can find the shortest measurement between the baseline and the tape, which is just under 2.9 meters, and that is crossing the tape 8 meters 70. Now that should be a right angle, so I can actually mark that on the drawing now. Need to measure in 8 meters 20, and then I can come out at 90 degrees at 2 meters 90. So that's the first point. So we're recording the inside edge of the wall. Later what we'll do is just measure the width of the wall using a steel hand tape. Now another method that we can use here is we can cross two tapes. So I've got one tape here pinned on the baseline at 10 metres. The other one I'm going to peg in at 6 metres. If you go to that big stone again. And now you can see where the tapes cross. I can get that measurement. I can set the compass and draw two arcs from those points on the baseline. Tell me what you've got then.
Okay. Base of the stone.
Yeah.
On this one.
Yeah.
It is 3 metres 23.
Right, just wait one moment. So from 10 metres, that's an arc. 3 metres 23. Yeah, and the other one?
And on the other tape it is 12 metres 60.
It can't possibly be 12 metres 60.
Oh, I apologise. 3 metres 80. I was looking at the wrong side.
Right, this is 3 metres 80 from 6 metres. So I've drawn two arcs and you can see there's a cross there, and it is pretty much on exactly the same spot we've previously measured. So we can continue with this technique to measure the inside edge of the wall all the way along that baseline, and then we can measure with a hand tape the approximate width of the wall. Now because it's a dry stone wall, it's not going to be a consistent width, it's going to be quite variable, and at the scale we're showing it at we won't really be able to show that variation, so it's almost like an estimate of the width of the wall that we're going to produce. So we've recorded all the detail now from this baseline. To record the other side of the site we need to set out another baseline at 90 degrees to this one. I'm going to use a technique called the 3-4-5 triangle. So we've got two tapes pegged against the baseline, 3 metres apart in that direction. If I pull this one out to 5 metres and we cross the other tape at 4 metres, we now have a right angle triangle. This line can be extended by lining up ranging rods as seen here. The first two are set up on the 3-4-5 triangle, and by sighting through these the far rod can be moved back and forth until it's in line. The survey is then continued. Once finished, it's scanned, rotated so that north is at the top, and then drawn up using Inkscape. Setting out lines at 90 degrees from an initial baseline and then taking offsets to record detail is not the only way to approach tape survey. Developing a network of triangles from a baseline can be equally effective, and you can extend this as many times as you need to cover the area of your survey. With tape survey, like all techniques, the more you do it, the better you'll become.